What is up, ladies and gents? I'm Legendary Mike, and welcome back to Monster Breakdown, where we break down all the monsters we fight in Monster Hunter World. This episode, we're talking about Kushala Daora. He is a returning Elder Dragon that we face in the endgame, so let's get into the breakdown.
That's tasty!
Kushala has been around since Monster Hunter Portable 2nd, or Freedom 2. He has made his appearance in several games since, including the last one of the series Generations. He is a heavily armored dragon that has control of the ice and wind, and with this power conjures tornadoes and icy winds to stop you in your tracks. But don't fret, we'll go into some tips I have for you. First thing up, patience, guys. Have patience. And I will say this now, Kushala is definitely a tough opponent to solo. Depending on your weapon choice, Kush can be a lot to handle, so play this fight cautiously. He really doesn't have any move that completely one-shots you, depending on your armor, of course. But what he does is setup moves that hit you multiple times, which ends up killing you. Number 2, try the old hit and run. Now, I know this won't be ideal for some weapons, but Kush, when pressure makes it difficult to lay down consistent damage. So try to focus on the head by hitting him a few times as he stands there. The trick is to do so, then roll out in time to dodge his swipe. He will dash a lot, so chasing him and positioning yourself for the attack on the head becomes easier with practice. Kush will fall over a lot when attacking his head, giving you about 10 seconds of glorious damage. Number 3, the all too familiar flashbangs. Now, it feels like I mention this every monster breakdown, but against flying monsters is key to a speedy success. Kush is a pain in the ass in the air due to its tornadoes and wind blast setting you up for a dive or a claw swipe. Bring poison and blast if you have them. Kush is highly acceptable to these status elements. He's weak to lightning as well, but I've had more success for poison because poison also keeps him from using his ability to cover himself in wind. Poison does a great job of weathering him down, and before you know, you're facing him in the final showdown. And the last tip I have for you, know your target. Weak points are as followed. Try not to hit his wings unless you have time to recover from the bounce, because his wings are heavily armored and blue sharpness doesn't penetrate. Alright guys, first move I want to bring up is the lunge. Now it's a typical lunge where he tries to bite you. Not much to talk about here. But I will say something, his tail and back legs have a hitbox, meaning you will get hit by it, so be careful. His claw swipe is probably be the one he uses the most, and also the one that hits you the most. It's a basic swipe that he can hop step to face you then swipe. He also will sometimes swipe you as you stand at his nose instead of biting. He has several wind attacks in his arsenal, but this one he tends to use when you're close. He sweeps his wind or frost breath in the cone in front of him. To avoid this, try to attack or approach from the side of his head near his front legs. His leap, you will see this a lot if you fight him at a distance. Watch for him to flap his wings to be able to react to it. This blast isn't the worst of its moves, but don't misjudge its hitbox. Listen for the roar and him rear up. One more thing, he has a super version of this that does a lot of damage with a huge hitbox, so be mindful. His enrage is important to understand. It's not just damage or an aggression increase. He engulfs himself in wind pressure that makes it tougher to get close for us melee guys. I said before, poisoning keeps him from using this, so if you have it, use it. But sadly, if you don't have poison, this is when you focus in on the head and tail. It's dangerous at times, but you guys know the moves that are dangerous, so use it to your advantage. I also like to mention, if you have the Elder Seal weapons, try to use them. Nergante weapons are really good, and it helps with this part of the fight. Now we're going to go into his aerial attack, starting with his tornado, which just happens to be more of an annoyance than anything. He will widen his stance, jump straight up, and spin. When doing this, creating a stationary tornado that throws you back. The easiest way to handle this is to clear out avoid it. Once he does one, or once he has one on the map, just run away and he eventually come to you. His claw slash while he's airborne is basically trying to claw you to death. Not a big deal. He has two versions of this dive slash lunge in the air thing he does. Sometimes he will lunge you while he's in the air, kind of like Rafflos, not a big deal. The second one is a full out dive bomb. It kind of does a lot of damage and will send you flying. And to avoid this, watch him rear up and kind of fly backwards. That's when you should expect a dive. If you get hit by it, it will possibly set you up for another hit, causing your untimely death. Final move I want to mention is his Wind Blast, in which again I've seen two types. The first one is being a single Wind Blast that can do some damage and knock you back. His second is the triple, where he shoots 3 blasts downward, which isn't hard to avoid, but you need to be careful when you're at a distance when he's flying. The Wind Blast and his actual dive bomb is what you need to worry about, so keep these two in mind. Now the last thing I want to mention before you wrap up is once he takes a rest or sleep, he will spawn 3 tornadoes. Now it's typically on top of area 4, but I've seen it happen in area 3 with a multiplayer group. This is where I suggest you saving a couple flashbangs for this part. The 3 tornadoes in a tight area can be a pain in the ass to deal with and a little uncomfortable. So what you end up doing is finding a safe spot, letting Kush come towards you and then flashbanging him and doing damage, rinse and repeat. So for a quick recap, he is dangerous whether he's airborne or on the ground. So always keep your eyes on him. Make sure you use poison weapons or a weapon with high Elder Seal, which Nergante weapons are really good for this. It will help with the wind pressure if you're melee. If you're a bow or bow gun user, be sure to help your friends. This fight is a pain in the ass for us. And guys, with that said, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button down below. If you want to keep up to date with my uploads, because you thought this video was helpful, hit the subscribe button. And I'll talk to you ladies and gents next time.